All right.
And we're back. Happy Monday. I'm Alek Dincoff, chatting with Steve Todd, founder of Open Sourced Workplace. How are you, Steve?
I'm doing well, Alek. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Long day, lots of snow here in the Midwest. But other than that, pretty good, pretty good.
Good, glad to hear. I actually haven't had any snow in New York. Obviously, last week in Utah, I saw a little bit of snow, but none in New York just yet. I know now that I've said that, we'll get bucket loads in the next couple of weeks, but that's just how it goes.
That's right, that's right. But hey, we got enough for both of us here. So if you can take it, I'd be happy.
Yeah.
So welcome back. You're back. You don't have scenic Utah behind you, right? But you're healthy, happy, and well. Tell us a little bit about the conference. How'd it go?
Yeah, the conference was really good. It was really, really good. And I mentioned last week the sort of spirit with which the conference was put together, right? So they're trying to bring together real estate, HR, technology people to talk about workplace experience. It's called the WX Summit. And, the team who actually put it on the conference did a fantastic job. Ryan Anderson, who emceed it, did a really, really superb job of knitting together the different facets. So, whenever it's quite interesting how one phrase or term may mean different things to HR, to real estate, and to technology. And he was very deliberate in taking the time to knit those things together. Did a fantastic job emceeing, as I said, very knowledgeable, really, really good guy. And, as I said, the team did a great job putting the conference together. The settings were stunning. The actual hall of the auditorium where we actually were, where the event was being placed, they did a really nice job layering in different types of seating into the environment. So they were creating an aesthetic that, shows you that not everything has to be the same for everybody. And that's sort of the feel you got. The attendee list was phenomenal. You've got really influential people making the effort to go to Utah to attend this event. I met and connected with some really great people. The content was really good, on point. Everyone's trying and aspiring to maximize workplace experience, and everyone's there to learn, well, how do you do that? And you can tell from the conversations, from the presentations, that everyone's on that journey. No one really knows, well, what is the maximize? How do you maximize workplace experience? There's no formula. There's no magic pill, so to speak, and it is going to be different for every organization, but everyone was really tapping into that and trying to learn as many insights as possible. So it was a great, great event. Beautiful, beautiful place. And team did a really, really good job. And I'll certainly be making my efforts to return again next year. So.
Very good, very good. Well, you mentioned everyone was striving to give insight and obtain insight. Was there anything that really stuck out in your mind? I know you mentioned obviously the seating, the space in which it took place, and the presentation of the whole project in its entirety. But anything specific, knowledge base?
From a knowledge base, I wouldn't say something specific. It's almost sort of look a common thread. Common thread is data. Common thread is how do you take that data? How do you take those insights and apply it to the workplace, apply it to your organization? Because, we can look at other organizations and how they develop their workplace, but that may not be applicable to, the businesses that we're responsible for. And again, it's like, so you get deeper and deeper into it. So, a lot of the times I look at what the tasks that the teams and the individuals, employees at specific locations have to do and tailor the workplace around those tasks and functions. And the conversation kind of went to a deeper level almost. Well, we have to go below tasks, and you almost have to understand the processes. So what processes do people do, and how will that change with technology over time? And how do you prepare yourself so you have the flexibility to be able to maneuver as that technology and those processes change? And everyone kind of knows this. When I say knows it, it's been taught at a great, great detail. but no one really has the finger on the answer just yet. And that's what everyone's sort of searching for and looking for. And I had a bunch of phenomenal questions, the conversations around this, different organizations, really, really bright people, and how they're tackling it. So I've come back much the wiser, and, new perspectives and gain insights, into sort of how I'll approach what I do. So for me, it was really useful.
That's great. That's great. Knowledge is so important. And you touched on not just how we're going to develop and work with technology in the future, but to make sure the business is ready to do so. It's very good that everybody's trying to stay at least on par or ahead of the curve.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest fear, right? So I'm currently working on NASDAQ on our new headquarter building in New York City. And, obviously we have a lease already agreed. We know what our floor plan looks like. We can put different colors and textures into the space that sort of work for the employees who are going to operate there. My biggest fear, though, is the capital investment in technology. We're planning for this to occupy the space in 2021, but actually we don't even know what technology is going to be there 22, 23, 24. My biggest fear is, well, if I put technology in there based on what I see in the market today, I may be behind the ball, behind the 8 ball by the time it actually goes live. So that's my biggest fear. And I know I'm not alone in this. I spoke to a number of professionals at the conference who are very mindful of the same thing. So I think over the next 18 months, we're going to see, I'm going to see a lot of new technology and sort of understand what are the technology that's been developed, to be deployed in 22, 23, 24, so that I'm in as best position I can to provide the best service I can for NASDAQ.
It's always difficult. Future-proofing something is very difficult, especially when it comes to technology, because everything's always continually being ramped up. I wish you the best. Some people just don't even worry about it, but obviously it's definitely a concern for yourself and in your job line.
Yeah, and I don't anticipate getting it perfect. I don't anticipate getting it. There will be things that I don't get quite right. What I've got to make sure is I have the flexibility and the ability to pivot once those things happen. So yeah. But again, this is why we get into this. This is why we love it so much. This is part of the challenge, and this is all part of the learning process. When I say I'm fearful, it's like I'm excited, fearful. You know what I mean? That sort of, it drives the ambition to learn more and get to know and understand things. So it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing.
Of course. I wish you the best.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens. If we're still doing this in a couple of years, it'll be exciting to look back and say, okay, how were those fears placed? What should you have seen coming? What did you miss? Things like that.
Yeah.
But focusing on the present, you've been traveling. Going back and forth is very, very difficult sometimes for work. Have you gotten any chance to read anything new? I assume not. With the conference, you had so much information to digest just there that you probably haven't had much time to go into other outlets.
No, I haven't. You're absolutely right. I've been totally absorbed in the conference. And when I was in the conference, I was working through the new website. So I am like 90% confident that it's going to be released this week. So yeah, we're getting really, really close. I've just got a couple little things that I need to be sure in my own mind are right. A couple of big decisions were made over the last 24 hours. Which should simplify the process for a release, but maybe not make it as flexible for the user experience. But again, I'd rather get something on the market that is updated and is going to be an enhancement on what's currently out there in the beta type. Yeah, so that's any downtime I got, that's what I was doing.
Understandable. There's always a fine line between launching when you're ready and launching when you know you'll never reach perfection.
Yeah. Yeah, and it'll never be reach perfection. I know that, and that's part of the experience that sort of taught me over the last 12 months. Um, Almost just release it when you think it's good enough, and just know that iteration is going to come, because no matter what you perceive as perfection in your head, once it's in the marketplace and once it start being used, you're going to find a ton of more things or other things that actually that now you should focus on those things. So no, it's good. It's good. I mean, at the moment, I've probably sort of give you some sort of data points. I think I have like 100 articles on the site now. I think I have almost 200 co-working locations that are available so people can actually go review and rate. So that's going to be really interesting. I'm trying to get some conferences on the site as well. So again, this is where people can come rate and review conferences that they have attended, so that the person that comes after them who may be interested in going to the following year's conference can go back and have a look at how prior years was rated and reviewed, which I think is really important for the marketplace. I think it's really good because it sort of gives a feedback loop to organizers that maybe who are not delivering or are delivering. You know, that feedback provides positive reinforcement of what really the industry needs and what the industry's after. So I'm very, very excited about that.
Yeah, I've heard goods and bads with presentations, and whenever you see a speaker, it can go be insightful, knowledge based, or sometimes it just turns into a sales pitch.
Yeah.
So
No, and that's my biggest frustration. You know, that is my biggest frustration. You know, I think everybody goes with good faith that they're going to be taught, they're going to learn something, they're going to get engagement with other attendees. But yeah, there are some that have a reputation that they're purely sales events, which is not what I don't want to go to. I know a lot of my peers feel the same way.
very good, very good. Well, it'll be good to have a catalog, a list of exactly how much benefit or how much it will benefit someone, and how on maybe a 5 out of 5 rating, at least you'll have an idea going into it.
Yeah.
But speaking of conferences and co-working locations and articles on your website, I don't know how many more segues we need that I just read. Has co-working transcended the effectiveness of the traditional office environment on open source workplace? Great article. Great article. It touches on co-working. I don't know if you can hear that, but that was a snowplow. I mentioned how much snow we got. Oh my goodness gracious, my apologies. But it talks about working from home, working in the office, but then co-working and co-mingling. I just wanted to ask you, have you had any experience? Because I know we both have worked from home. You have worked in an office environment, as have I. But have you worked in one of these co-working settings where people from all different groups and backgrounds are coming together?
I actually haven't. I'm obviously very familiar with many of the co-working offerings that are on the marketplace today. I haven't actually went and worked in a location. I haven't. I obviously, as part of NASDAQ, we do lease and have space available at various co-working locations. And, you know, they really do serve a great purpose. Where you have a small office, maybe away from a large hub, they provide great opportunities for those small offices to integrate and form a community with a greater environment. And I think that's really the big key for the co-working. And obviously they've grown because, you know, entrepreneurs are able to go there, meet fellow entrepreneurs, and together they've been able to collaborate and sort of help each other make their own business greater. I think, you know, the co-working industry, how it's transformed the last 3-4 years has been great for workplace as a whole. It's almost reduced or, you know, lowered the barrier of entry to providing a great community and a great environment for all employees in all workplace and all corporate offices. And I think WeWork has been probably the shining light, if you want, in how they've marketed, how they've portrayed, and how they've shown that, and how aggressively they've actually grown. I think there are other, I don't want to say better, but there are different types of co-working spaces that are better for different types of people, different types of businesses. And there are some that I think have taken it on in a different spin. Their offering is very unique. But I love the whole co-working. I love watching it. I love watching the space. I love seeing how things develop. And as I said, you know, what likes of Apple and Google did for office space 10, 15 years ago, I think the likes of WeWorks and other co-working providers have sort of taken that concept to another level and sort of given everyone the feeling that everybody can have that community environment that Apple and the likes of Google were able to create on their campuses, you know, where obviously the amount of money that they invested was almost unlimited, you know, and then whenever you're working in a corporate environment, you look at that and go, it'd be great to give that experience, but actually it's just unattainable because the cost that they put into that environment was just so much. But I think the co-working offerings today have sort of highlighted actually it doesn't really take that much cost. But yeah, it's I haven't worked out of one. I've been to many. I've seen many. I love the vibe. I love the environment and just the sort of the buzz that's in the place. It's really interesting. Have you been to any yourself?
No, I haven't. I can be a social person. I know we've mentioned that when I work at home or in an office without anybody else for a long enough time, I become antisocial, right? But I'm sure I would do very well, or maybe be a little too social in that environment. Either way, I would like it. And it sounds like you're giving it 2 thumbs up as well. That's good. You mentioned WeWork, and I do believe the publishing time of the article that I mentioned, WeWork is the biggest in the USA. It is not the biggest in the world. I think there's a company over in Europe. They got started with more technology and software development back in the 1990s or so. They're technically still the biggest, but you mentioned WeWork is very aggressive. I was going to ask if you had your eye on any sort of co-working company, and it sounds like WeWork is the one that you think is going to keep leaping over hurdles and expanding and growing.
You know, I don't know. And I say I don't know. And I say that I don't know because that's why I find it so interesting. You know, their offering is really good. And obviously they're diversifying into offering We Live, We Fit, all different lifestyles, right? They want to create a life brand. And WeWork have just created, you know, formed their own company called We Company, and everything's under that umbrella. WeWork being one of them and being their co-working offering. But I really am intrigued by Convene. Convene they're now offering co-working, but traditionally they've been offering services to a landlord that enhances their building, enhances the amenities that they can provide to a landlord's tenants. So it's a very different approach to how WeWork are offering things and how the traditional co-working companies have been sort of approaching things. And so Convene's trying to solve a problem for a landlord. And whenever you're solving problems for a landlord, that means you're working with the landlord and in the landlord's interest. Therefore, you have a lot more, not skin in the game, but in essence, you're buying a lot more equity if you want, you know, because you're providing them. And the type of things that they offer exhibition, conference facilities, they offer catering, they offer co-working, and these are all things that whenever a landlord's trying to entice a prospective tenant, they can point to a Convene and say, look, these are the services you can have in our building. Traditionally, landlords would have had to create that space, run that space, and operate it themselves. So now when they have this outsourced solution, it's really helpful to them. So I'm really interested in that. And then you get Serendipity Labs that are actually offering franchises where people can create a franchise to have a co-working space, which is really interesting. And then you've got Spaces. Spaces is a co-working facility, a co-worker that actually spawned out of the Regis company. And again, they offer some really interesting types of spaces. And again, then you get into the different industry types of co-working offerings where, you know, you get the medical, you get very tech specific, you get, you know, the ones that are set up for programmers, the ones that are set up for fitness. Just it's phenomenal the different niches that you're getting for co-working. And but again, I really am interested to see how WeWork evolve. I'm really interested to see how Convene evolve, and then a lot of their competitors as well. I think it's fascinating. I love it. And as I said, you know, it's opened the eyes to senior executives that actually workplace can be a lot more than just an office and a place where people come to sit and do work.
Of course, of course. Well, both of us work from home, so we already know that, but I'm glad everybody else is opening their eyes. But you mentioned that we fit these different type of branding or these specific spaces for medical field, or I think in the article it mentions even besides technology, it's construction or programming, or they pick fields and then make spaces just for people that do those things. It sounds like you're very interested in it. I don't know if you've had any experience. Do you think it's better or worse than just having everybody all together in one space where you can really have ideas and personalities from the spectrum bouncing off each other, or if you keep it confined and almost box it into your profession? Better or worse?
No, it's a great question, and I don't know the answer, but I'll give you two perspectives the way I sort of would look at it. One is, so let's look at an environment where you have, let's take the construction industry, right? So you've got a space where everyone who interacts and deals with construction's in the same place. Well, I can see a lot of collaboration and things happening really, really quickly because different providers are sitting in the same space. The challenge with that is at some point people are going to be competing with each other, right? So does that then put up barriers within that office? I don't know. So I can see that both ways. Also, then if you were a construction or someone within that, but you were then operating in a technology type of co-working space, would you enhance your services more by actually being exposed to technology providers, because they can look at that you're offering and find you a technology solution, right? So there's different ways you see how things work, and then you can see how things work and apply it to yours. That's why it's more, let's not look at so much that the types of people we're interacting with. The fact that we're interacting with people who are entrepreneurial in spirit, who want to sort of fix and solve problems, whenever you bring all those people together, they will find opportunities irrespective of who they're collaborating with. The most important thing is the actual collaboration and interaction, and that's what's going to bring the value of those type of environments.
Very good, very good. My first initial reaction to all this was, perhaps in the construction field, you walk over to the office next door and say, "Hey, do you have any tips for?" And you say just a blanket statement, and they say, "Oh, have you tried this?" Oh my goodness, just like you mentioned with technology, or vice versa in the big conglomerate where everyone, different heads, different minds, different personalities across the spectrum commingle. Someone walking over and saying, "Hey, I built a building. Does anybody want to market it for me? Does anybody know marketing stuff? Because I got to get this done. Even if it's not for your business or your company that you work for, I'll hire you independently." It may turn into side streams of revenue as well, just for someone having expertise. And it's, I know a guy or I know a girl. It's the ask your neighbor mentality.
No, I totally agree. And I think we're kind of agreeing that we see where the benefit is, and that's what it brings it to, right? So you take that from a co-working side, right? And then you bring it into your corporate office, right? So how do you create that in your corporate office so the same things happen, right? So we see the benefits of how we can happen in that co-working environment. So then how do you create it in your own corporate office? And then to do that, everything goes around the community center, right? Everything is around that community hub where everybody goes. So how do you create the environment that actually entices everybody to go to that community space within your organization? So all those little conversations, because you take the examples you've got, you can actually say, if you've got a product developer who then bumps into the marketing guy, in your example, the marketing guy said, "Well, why don't you market it like this?" And the sales guy can go, "Well, I can sell that product." And all of a sudden, this accidental interaction is what stimulates a lot of that innovation and creativity. So, just because it happens in that co-working, and that's what I'm saying, so people see it really easily in a co-working environment, but they struggle to see it in the corporate office. but the two, that's what I'm talking about, that connection. And that's what the value that those co-working locations are actually really bringing to a workplace, because you can start to see those different things in a work environment and point to something, go, if it works there, why can't it work in a corporate office?
My only initial impression is some people, if everybody could sit at home doing what they loved all day, they'd probably do it. So when you go to work, because either you love work or it's a means to an end. But when you're at work in a co-working space, let's say I'm an advertiser or somebody who does digital advertising, making beautiful diagrams, and someone comes in that's not in my company and asks me a question, it's no longer, it's a break from work. It's still work. It's still my expertise. It's my knowledge field, but it has nothing to do with my job. So I may be more motivated or driven or excited to stop working in order to work, because it's almost like a mental trick where, oh, but that's not my job. That's just something I love. That's just what I'm good at. I don't know. But that's just me. That's just me.
No, I totally agree with you. I totally do. I see the parallels in that situation with a corporate office as well, right? Mm-hmm. You could still be, that guy who does the marketing, but someone comes, or you're the design guy, and someone from product who you don't know, who's having a conversation with the guy next to you, and you overhear. It's one of those things. Like that's what I think of the co-working has allowed us to see other opportunities. And it's allowed us to illustrate them better within a corporate environment, to actually point to and say, look, those are the benefits that we can create. And one of the great things that these co-working providers are actually doing is pulling a lot of data, a lot of stats on how collaboration and how different things are forming. We forget that actually within our organization, the same things can happen if we adopt a lot of their environment too, and a lot of their, that community spirit as well.
Very good. Very good. I do have one last question though. Do you think there's a field that just really wouldn't be good as a in the co-working sector? I was thinking over this question in my mind. I couldn't quite come up with anything except the people that need to be in a factory, the people that need to be out in the field, being a service type worker.
Yeah.
Other than that, I can't, but office space, right? I can't think of one. Yeah, can you?
I mean, the one in the factory, you're right, but I think it would be different, right? Because a lot of factories, have manufacturing runs, and they'll provide services to multiple companies, right? Still same factory, same infrastructure. Maybe it's a different program, you know what I mean? So, no, I'm not sure there are any. I mean, obviously you get into very specialized environments, brain surgery, things like that. Those are the type of things that, you could operate. But again, one could also turn around and say, well, is a hospital not that too? Because it can hire freelancers and so on and so forth to come in and do the things of specialists, right? So, I mean, I think it's hard to find someone that's probably not or an industry that's not set up or couldn't work out of a co-working location.
Okay. Very good. Well, I'm going to sign off and say thank you for joining me, unless you've got a curveball for me.
No, I don't. Thank you for the questions. And I'm super excited to hear these podcasts once they get going, where everyone's going to be able to, instead of just reading the articles, they're going to get those articles delivered in a podcast format, read by your good self on a daily basis, which is going to be great.
Yep. And for those of you watching and listening, the podcast is planned to be available basically where all great podcasts are found. So wherever you're currently listening to podcasts, our goal is to make it accessible, or our podcast accessible to you without you changing your provider or wherever you're at.
That's great.
Very good. Well, Steve, thank you very much for joining me. We'll see you next Monday. Thank you everyone else for joining us as well. Remember to like, share, comment. This is on YouTube. If you're watching this on social media, go to our YouTube page and subscribe, Open Sourced Workplace. Other than that, we'll see you back here next Monday. Have a great week.
Great.